Hello and welcome to Shield. This is another Tekkit tutorial. In this tutorial I will be covering early game power generation and what I believe are the best means to do it. Alright, so here are the basic machines that you have when you first start out that you'll have access to when you start Tekkit and are reasonably cheap to create. You have the reactant dynamo, the compression dynamo, the steam dynamo, the magmatic dynamo, and the steam turbine, as well as the Buildcraft engines. The combustion and Stirling engine are the only two that produce any reasonable amount of power. So, to cover which ones I think are the best, the reactant, all the dynamos and the steam turbine produce 80 RF a tick. The reactant dynamo requires a reactant like a gas tier and then some sort of energy bucket like energized glowstone, and it will produce 80 RF a tick. The compression dynamo, on the other hand, requires water and fuel, and it will then produce 80 RF a tick. You can also use oil, but it will produce less RF total over the course of one bucket than if you manage to refine it into fuel first. You then have the steam dynamo, which will produce RF if you have water and steam. Water and coal. It will generate power that way at 80 RF a tick. It will also produce steam if you want to run the steam turbine off that, or any other steam powered items such as an electric turbine. The magmatic dynamo is different in the fact that it will take either lava or blazing pyrotheum. Blazing pyrotheum is quite expensive to make, so lava buckets are the way to go with the magmatic engine, and it will produce 80 RF a tick. 80, 80, 80, and 80. The reason why they are producing 80 is because I have them hooked up to this resonant energy cell, which can take up to 10,000 RF per tick. That's just to illustrate their max potential. Alright, now over here we have the Buildcraft engines. They are relatively useless. I'm just going to say that flat out. Since the introduction of this version of Tekkit, you can use redstone flux RF to power any Buildcraft machine, so these are not needed anymore. But just to cover them anyway, the Stirling engine requires coal to run, and the combustion engine requires coal, fuel, and water. No, actually it doesn't need coal. It just needs fuel and water. And then when you flip the lever, they will both run and produce power. You can see the power by the little blue line running through these pipes. They will in turn power these lasers, which are what I believe you would use them for exclusively. And as you can see, the assembly table is now creating redstone golden chipsets. But you can use redstone flux to produce this as well. For example, if I just delete those and come over here and connect these two together, you'll see that, hey, it's producing, again, it's producing at a different speed than these engines will, but it's not noticeably different, and these engines don't produce power for any other machine. Now, the one machine that I haven't covered yet is the steam turbine. The steam turbine only requires water and then an output for its electricity, and it will produce power at 80 RF a tick. It won't actually tell you that it's producing that, but it is. For example, if we move that over to there, grab a resonant energy cell, and then check the multimeter. Oh, it's actually producing at nope, 80. It was just had a backlog. So, 80 RF a tick is what it will produce, and considering that it only takes water, it is, in my opinion, the best early game power source that you can potentially use. Unfortunately, the steam turbine requires a steam dynamo in order to make, so it's more expensive than any single dynamo. but that being said, it is also the easiest to maintain. Alright, so how do you get water into that? You can use either Buildcraft's pumps in an infinite source, or you can use the aqueous accumulator. I personally prefer the aqueous accumulator because it doesn't destroy any water source block. In addition to that, it also pumps out water much faster and can use the fluiducts from thermal expansion, which will also pump water around significantly faster than the Buildcraft pipes. That should about cover you for early game power generation in Tekkit. So, to recap, all the dynamos are what you want to build. I personally think of the dynamos, the magmatic and the compression dynamo are the most useful. The steam dynamo is also very useful because it only uses coal, but it uses the coal pretty quickly, while the compression dynamo can use oil and fuel, both of which are extremely plentiful in the world. I would say the magmatic dynamo is good next if you can somehow manage to pipe up lava from a source up to it, but I wouldn't consider using it because it is too resource intensive, as well as the reactant dynamo since it requires a reactant, and the gas tier are, in my opinion, the best aside from the nether star, and they are relatively difficult to get, as well as you need energized glowstone or some other bucket of fuel that isn't blazing pyrolithium or fuel. You can use like sludge or other things, but it's not nearly as good, so I wouldn't build that either. So pretty much you want to go for a compression dynamo and steam dynamos to make the steam turbines. You typically don't want to actually use the steam dynamo by itself because upgrading it to the turbine reduces its cost to run down to 0. You just need water, and water's free and cheap with the aqueous accumulator. Anyway, thanks. Bye-bye now.